She's got a master's in education, and me too. Um, we met online last year, last summer, and then in person because we're both winners of the ICF Coaching Impact Awards. And Hélène was someone who I thought I need to do and want to do more with her because she's extremely passionate about coaching. Hey, high five. Totally aligned there, but also something unique in terms of supporting healthcare professionals. And so the sort of catchphrase is healthcare from the inside out. Now, I'll let Hélène say a little bit more about herself. I'm in a place where a few on this call were with me this morning. The internet has been a bit rubbish. Hélène is host, so if anything happens, you're in good hands with our speaker, but also with the internet as well. So welcome everyone and thank you and enjoy the session.
Amazing. Well, again, thank you so much, Claire, for that beautiful introduction. And it was such a treat to meet in person last August, and just in awe of everything that you've accomplished and done for the coaching community. So I'm so grateful to be here in your presence and with your community. And it's a coffee community, so I came prepared, but that is really how it looks like every morning at 8 a.m. At my workplace. And I want to say a shout out to Mark, who's here from in my backyard in BC as well. So welcome, another Canadian. That's great. And I'll talk a little bit about myself as we learn about the content together. I'm not a big fan of talking about me. I much prefer that you're leaving with the knowledge and with goodies and things that you can leave with actionable content. And so I'm curious if people had the opportunity to download the worksheets in advance. I see some nods, and just in case, what I'll do is I've got the link here. I'll stop the share for a quick second, and I will put it in the chat just in case. And Claire, what we might need to do if people are showing up afterwards, it won't show up in the chat. So we might have to copy and paste it a few times. So welcome for those that are joining in. And I am looking for that chat. And of course, Zoom likes to, there we go. So it should be, the link should be in a chat. And so for those that are just joining in, welcome. In the chat, I put a link and that is your worksheet. So if you're able, it could be helpful to go through some of the exercises that we have in place so that you get to experience this tool for yourself. So it's a tool called the Energy Balance Blueprint. I'll show this quickly, just in case we don't get to all your questions. Rest assured, I'll show this slide again at the end as well. I am more than happy to answer any questions. Feel free to interrupt during our time together. It's very informal. We're having our coffee and we're learning together. And then very easy to connect with me should you have any questions following our time. So as Claire mentioned, my name is Hélène. A lot of accents. My first language, I see we have some people from France. My first language is French. So easy for some people to pronounce Hélène. Not easy for Anglophones. So for my English friends, I'll teach them this little trick to put LN, LN, LN. If you say it quickly together, you're saying it with a French twist. And so I even have this to help people when I'm doing presentations. So a quick French bonus lesson if those were interested. And in your first page of your workbook, there's a bit of information about me on that. I think what's important to know is the history and the why this tool that you're about to learn came together. it really was a 20-year journey to put that tool together. And it started in my healthcare world. If you look at my credentialings here, they're kind of in chronological order from the at the end to forward. So I started my career in occupational therapy. So this is for Bachelor of Science in OT, occupational therapy, or ergothérapie en français. And I've been a registered OT for 21 years. 10 years in my career, I decided to do a Master of Adult Education. I thought it was going to be a brilliant time to do it when I was on mat leave. So I popped 2 kids in those 5 years, and it was really transformative to have this Master of Adult Education. It really is influencing how I'm showing up today and how I put content together. And just last month, I became a Master Certified Coach. So I think it just showcases that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm still, it's one of my first time announcing this title, so it still feels surreal, to be honest. But I think it really showcases, I remember sitting in my first 3-day coaching training in 2016 and never thinking I would become certified as a coach. I didn't need to. I joined in and actually told my husband, I'm good. You know, I have a bachelor's degree. I did my master's. Thank you so much for your support. It was, you know, challenging to get that done with 2 young kids. And as, you know, I promised him, you know, I'm good. But I got the bug. I sat in those courses, not really knowing the impact it was going to have, and was able to adapt the methodology to use from a leadership context when I was sitting in the class to using it in healthcare. It had such a significant impact with clients that it's kind of tells the story, that impact that it had, that I became a Master's Certified Coach. And so this tool landed on my desk. It was called something different. It's been adapted significantly. At the time, it was called a pacing point system, I believe. And I was 2 years in my occupational therapy career. And I was working with clients that had brain injury, concussions, persistent pain, and energy conservation strategies was a big buzzword and a big part of the intervention that I had to provide as a young OT. So I'll tell you more about how it's evolved. But first, here are our learning objectives. So we'd love for you to invite you to take a minute to review these to make sure you had the right spot. And we'd love to invite you to give me a 1 in the chat if you're in agreement with these learning objectives. And thank you, Claire, for posting that link again. I appreciate it. So for those that are just joining, inviting you to download that resource book if you're able to. Thank you, Michelle, in agreement with those learning objectives. Thank you, Catherine. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. So that will be our focus for today. Again, inviting you to ask any questions or use the chat. Claire and I will pay attention to the chat if a question is popping up. But I'm curious, how many clients do you currently support or have supported in the past, and you've heard these statements before or something similar to that, where I don't have time to prioritize my health or well-being. I keep needing to go for my 15-minute run in the morning. I keep needing to do a quick workout before my day starts or at the end of my day, and I never get around to it. I just can't find the time. Or I don't have the energy to do what I really want to do. I'd love to be able to do that, but the day ends and I'm just wiped. I'm done. And so, Catherine, you're saying almost all of them, most of them, about 90%. And some of you are saying all of them as well. So my hope is that this tool is going to be of value for you. It's something that has been adapted to incorporate adult education principles, and later when I became a coach, coaching principles. So that's why the tool has evolved so much. When it landed on my desk, you know how you get and I don't know if this happens as much, but 20 years ago, we were photocopying all these things that over and over again. So when it landed on my desk, it was 2 pages and it had been photocopied so many times. It was all faded and crooked and didn't look pretty. So one of the first things I did is type it all up on a Word document so my clients could see it. But it's a tool that started as 2 pages, and now the whole workbook is over 20 pages. So lots of different tools and strategies that are embedded in it. I'm also curious the types of clients that you're currently working with. So are you working maybe with teens, with adults? Are you working with clients that maybe they're C-suite, leadership roles, managers, directors, or maybe you're working with clients, specific population, healthcare heroes? Oh, I love that. Thank you, Magdalena, for that work. We need it. All levels, executives for Elaine, thank you. And I'm curious if some people are working in health and wellness, adult leaders, C-suite, plus military and law enforcement leaders, especially women, managers. Okay, beautiful. So part of my work, I would say I spend about 30 to 40% of my time in this role like this as a facilitator, educator. And the other piece that I do is direct work with clients that have a disability or an illness. I would say about 10 to 15% now. And then the other 20, 30% is focusing on that one-on-one coaching with, similar to a lot of you guys, with C-suite leaders, managers, directors. And I have had a couple teen clients as well. So I see that, Michelle, you're seeing kids, adults, moms, executives, and wellness all around. And one of you is working with National Board, is certified with National Board Health and Wellness Coaching. Beautiful. So this tool works for all of those clients. I'm curious if some of you are coming across with your clients that are dealing with long COVID symptoms. I know a few of my leaders have been dealing with that. Some have had, some of my leaders have ADHD. I've had people that have, leaders especially have faced burnout, either close to burnout, or I've started to work with them really close post their burnout. So it's been used with all of those clients and more. And for myself, it's a tool that I dug out for myself shortly during this Master of Adult Education phase where I had 2 kids. And I felt really close to burnout. And I was like, hold on, I've got tools that I've created that I could use and dust off and support myself. So I've actually used the energy balance blueprint for myself when I felt really close to burnout. And for me, it was as a result of being a young mom and having a ton on my plate with that master's. So thank you, Britta, for sharing as well. So a lot of people are doing in diverse cultural settings and with adults primarily, leadership role and health and wellness. Beautiful, great mix. So I want to do a quick disclaimer. I'm the founder of Function First Coaching. And as Claire mentioned earlier, I'm very passionate about shifting healthcare from inside out. And so once I discovered that I had this tool that kept evolving, and it's now in an online module with over 12 hours of content, to me, I could no longer just keep this in my computer, and for a tool to help me and my clients. I really do create tools and resources that could support shifting that healthcare from inside out and supporting our leaders to stay in their role. And so for me, I'm very passionate about the tools that and resources I put together to support others. So I'm excited that you'll have an opportunity, if you're interested, to purchase that energy balance blueprint. So today we'll kind of do surface dive. You'll get to see what it's about, and if it's something that could be helpful, you'll be able to apply some of those concepts right away. And if you wanted to go deeper and earn some coaching credentialing, you have an opportunity to purchase that online module. And the way I put it together, for me, it saved me so much rehab planning time, because I've been able to create and break it down into over 6 sessions with clients. So you'll get to meet a few of those clients in our presentation. I warn my clients, I give them a disclaimer before we start. If I find that energy is a barrier and something that they want to address, I will give this a disclaimer pretty early on about this tool, that if we move forward with it, it will take effort. It's not a magical tool that just shifts things overnight. And this disclaimer actually lives in the workbook to make sure that I don't forget to, or that anyone who's using the tool forgets to mention. In that online module, there's 2 clients. One is leadership, one is health and wellness. And the leadership client, we did 4 sessions in 3 months. And then the other client in health and wellness, she has a diagnosis of lupus. We took 6 months and 6 sessions for her. So it doesn't happen overnight, but the impact is monumental. And worth the effort when people are invested and willing to make the time. So we'd love to invite you to look at your page 3 of your workbook, if you have it, Andy. Curious if some people printed it. Feel free to raise your hands or a thumbs up. Yeah, I'm a printer too. I love to do that. Yeah, I see some thumbs up. Thanks for letting me know. I make it digitally as well. This one version, I think it was much easier for printing, because it's hard to make it digital. So on page 3, there was an invitation, if you had time, to kind of do a brief overview of a typical day for you recently. So I'm curious if some people had the chance to do that. And it's okay if not. Yeah, I see some people. Okay. So for those of you that have, feel free. I'll give my example first. And then if you feel comfortable, we can support you to calculate your points. Because one of the first steps when I invite people to use this energy balance blueprint, I don't give all the instructions at once. Typically, the first step is exactly what I've told you, inviting you, here's this weekly schedule, inviting you, see if you can track 3 days to 5 days, if that's manageable for you. And most people will fill out a good week. When I use my healthcare hat, they have to do it for 2 weeks, and they have to send it to me before we meet. So I'm a bit more strict with my healthcare hat, but my coaching hat, I'll invite them to do a few days. So this is one of my days recently. It started at 6 a.m. and with coffee, I went for a run. I did my morning routine. I've got 2 kids. So I do a morning routine with them, get them ready off to school. And my work hours are usually 8:30 to 3 because of school age children. Then I'm a taxi driver because they're 11 and 12. And then, so lots of activities. Then it's a dinner, cleanup, a bit of unwind and prep for next day. It feels like one day rolls into the next at this phase of my life right now. And so then inviting you, and this is where those that have completed this, we might support you to do your blueprint. So the first step is I just invite people, just indicate what a typical day looks like for you. Then we'll meet in person or virtually. For me, my practice is very much in a space like this, where I do coaching and I'm using a Zoom platform. Sometimes I have the opportunity to meet my clients in person. And so we will pull this out during our session. And so every activity that they have identified, I then pull it out and transfer it on this blueprint. the first question I'll ask someone when I see an activity, I'll say, so let's pretend this is mine. So I would reflect, okay, is TV, coffee for me? Is this a replenishing activity or is this requiring energy? So that day, I started my day with a replenishing activity. And the range of points always goes between 1 to 4. I'm curious if some people are familiar with Weight Watchers. I'm going to give you a show of hands or a 2 in the chat. I see some hands. And I see Britta, I could hear your are you a fan or you're just muted? I'll ask you to unmute.
It's been a very, very long time. Sorry. It's been a very, very long time. I remember the point system, and just a heads up, it did not work for me.
Yeah. My dad is obese. He's been obese since I've been born. And when I became a kinesiologist, before my OT degree, I did kinesiology. And I got him on Weight Watchers. He lost 170 pounds. But he gained it all back. So I'm very, very familiar with Weight Watchers. And it is based on a point system. So this is a bit similar to that, where you're giving everything a point. So I remember when my dad was on it, I think like an apple, every time you ate an apple was 1 point, for example. That could be wrong, but it was a long time ago. But the idea is with Weight Watchers, they would give you sort of like the blueprint, and they would tell you, here are all the food you might eat, and here's all the points that they're equal to. So the idea with this, with activities, is similar, but everyone will have their own unique blueprint. For me that day, I went for a run for 15 minutes. That was 3 points for me. I used to be a runner. I'm trying to get back into it. My muscles are not built for running right now, and came back, and that felt like a lot of energy for me. Yes, you have a question, Britta. Take it away.
Yes, I have a question. I did download the workbook. I have a question on what defines the energy points in the plus and in the minus. Like there are some things I'm doing for work that are definitely not, for me, there are energy drainers. But then, for example, a work break would be an energy giver. So if you could, like, I don't know if it's coming up. I don't want to jump in between, but that is my big question.
Yeah. So for your blueprint, I would go in the replenishing here. So if we were working together, I'd say, oh, it looks, how long was your break a specific day you took?
I don't know. And I was just giving an example. Let's say today took like half an hour break or something in between. Yeah.
So if you're typically, like for me, I did a 15-minute work break. And so whenever it's a replenishing activity, it's a minus point. And when you were working on a work project, so I think I have here, I was doing I have work project. For me, I chunk it down in 30 minutes, because if I'm going to sit down to work on a project, minimally, I'm sitting there for at least half an hour. So that day, I did projects. It's captured in here, but in my 8:30 to 3, let's say that I did 2 hours of project work. Well, for me, those projects, they eat up points. They're very high cognitive load. And so for me, I put it down as a 3-4. Sometimes I have to do work tasks that are low cognitive load. So then I might separate that and have another activity that would specify that low cognitive load. I'll give a quick example. I had a client I was supporting that had, and if people are using this with clients that have had a change to their health, so someone dealing with burnout, long COVID, concussions, anyone that has had a change, this will change as well. And so this client used to work do a ton of computer work. And he realized following a concussion, he could do emails and manage those okay. And so in his blueprint, he said, I can do an hour. Yes, it eats up energy, but not a ton. I would put that an hour for 2 points. However, when I have to do my data analysis and work on Excel spreadsheet with numbers and all that, that is really draining me. And I can only manage about half hour at a time before I have to walk away from the screen. And so that was 4 points for 15 minutes. Does that help?
Yes.
And I see,
yeah. Just a quick in between. It says dinner, sorry, and maybe too early, but for example, dinner prep 8. For me, preparing any sort of food is energy draining.
yes.
So,
True.
so
And this actually is a typo. I shouldn't go more than 4. That should be a 4. But it's
okay.
so like consciously, like subconsciously, it's so draining for me. I promise.
Okay, okay, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And so, Catherine, you're bang on. Like a -4 would be a very replenishing activity. Absolutely. And so often what happens when I'm meeting with clients is the first step we're doing is we're listing out those activities. And one neat thing that happens, yeah, what if you love cooking? Yeah, I'm jealous. So Mark, if you love cooking, maybe for you, and I know friends like this, and I'm so envious, they will spend hours cooking and it just relaxes them. Honestly, my heart rate, if you put a heart rate monitor on me, it's rising. I am stressed. And if people are coming over, that would be extremely energy draining on top of that if I have guests and I have to cook for them. Yeah, Mark, you are in my backyard. I will find out where you live. I'm here and go over for dinner. And so that's why, unlike the Weight Watchers, that they can give you this handbook and tell you everything you eat, it's equal to these points. Not the case with this. This is why it doesn't happen overnight. And what I'm discovering, the more and more I use this with my clients, what it helps them with is they don't realize how much they do. So it's often through our coaching session that we'll look at their schedule together and I'll be like, oh, I see that you went to the doctor on that day. How much? And then we'll put doctor appointment as the category. Do you go often to see your doctor? Well, right now I have this thing happening and I'm going once a month for my check-in. So yes. And so we'll put doctor down. We'll find out how many points that is. Then I'll ask, well, how do you get to your doctors? Oh, well, I'm taking the city bus. How long does it take you to get there? Oh, it takes me a good half hour using the city bus, and then I have to walk for 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, so your transportation is 45 minutes to get to your appointment and 45 minutes to come back. How energy draining is that, or replenishing potentially? So you're able to help them identify sometimes additional activities as you're going through this. But the idea is that's why it's really helpful to have 3 or 4 days at least, because you can start capturing the key activities that they do. And then you can start probing and asking those clarity and curiosity questions coaches are great at to probe a bit further and identify additional activities. I'm just going to check. Catherine says, walking in nature with my dog, -4, beautiful, 30 minutes to an hour. Claire, you say I walked earlier in the rain, which is rare, and it washed away that stress, -4. And so see that right away, this is what this tool does. It helps you to see what those replenishing activities are and how are we incorporate them? How important are they for you? And so this is where as coaches, we can then link this to their values, to how important it is. And how critical could it be to support that leader to do those more meaningful activities? That leader that is going to meetings back to back to back, that's dealing with stressful situations, looking at what a typical day looks like, they will probably be in awe of how much they get done in a typical day. but how do they feel at the end of that day, right? How much energy? And that's why that next step, the first step is just, let's just do a brain dump of your activities. Let's create that blueprint. Now we're ready to add points to it. So this is an example for me. If you took all those activities, it was a -1. My run, because we had put my run down as 3 points, and I went for 15 minutes. I went for a half-hour run. Well, my run was 6 points. My morning routine for my kids that day. So my morning routine, I put it, sometimes it's a 2, sometimes it's a 3, sometimes it's a 4. So that's okay to do as well. I put a dash. And for me, some mornings are super hectic. One of the kids slept in, they forgot, oh shoot, I didn't get my homework done. And so we're all running around, we're scrambling, we're trying to get those lunches packed. We're trying to make sure they've had some food in them. And I'm solo parenting in the morning. My husband is already at his work. So some mornings, this was a tough morning. I used up 12 points. And Catherine, you said, what about the way we manage our agenda? For executive, for me, no appointments before 10:30. And for my production days in the week.
I will explain. Actually, I gather my production days on 3 days in the week, from Tuesday to Thursday. Monday and Friday are what I call back office strategy days. And during the 3 production days, no appointment before 10:30. And the fact that there's nothing before 10:30 is -8. It's super replenishing to me to just know that there will be no appointment before 10:30.
Yeah. And that's a strategy that, because you know those 3 protection days, when you're on from 10:30 till 3, it's going to be intense. And it's going to be eating up a lot of your energy points. So strategy is no one can see me till there's no appointments on those days. And that's fantastic. And that's what helps you to be able to do this likely and repeat this and sustain this over week after week after week. And so what if we're working with clients and they're not incorporating strategies like that? This is where we might be able to capture that when we look at that weekly activity schedule together. And when we start to add those points. And so what happens is, this is why I say it doesn't happen overnight, because as you add your points, this was my point for just one day. I used up 63 points. I finished my day so-so, a 5. What if, when I'm doing this for an entire week, what if I start to notice some days I'm hitting, like your production days, Catherine, they might be a lot more points, but you're also incorporating more minus points on your production days. And that's what helps you to prevent that burnout and be as optimizing your energy. And how are you finishing at the end of your day? So I always ask my clients a quick invitation to just write, where are you at the end of the day with your energy? Are you so depleted, your head is not even touching the pillow and you're passed out? That's how done you are, and you've got nothing left in you? Are you coming home and you're sure you did a great job at work, you attended all your meetings and you got a lot done, but you come home after work and you're like, forget it, I'm canceling this dinner tonight, I'm wiped? And so are you canceling or not doing those activities that fill your bucket, that give you joy? So this is where I'm noticing with leaders, it really helps to dial up that awareness. So I'm curious, we've just kind of touched the surface and kind of grasped that idea of tracking our activities, assigning points to them, tallying up those points. From what you've seen so far, if you were to list the advantages of using this concept with your clients, what comes to mind? Oh, Philip, yes. Sorry, I missed that question. You asked what's the 5 to 10 ratio? Yes, sorry, to specify, I'll ask my clients on a scale of 1 to 10, where's your energy? 10, like you've got good energy left at the end of your day. Many of my clients will finish their day and they're like a 2 or 3. So I'm inviting them to reflect on the quality of their energy, essentially. Because and that helps to determine the number of points that might be your just right zone. So a bit like the same concept as Weight Watchers. I remember they weighed my dad, they looked at his height, his age, and all that. They said, okay, so based on your physiology and your age, you should eat, I'm just giving an example, 100 points per day. But what happens with our energy, we're all going to have a different number of points. That is our just right zone. And so what this tool is supporting you to identify what is that. Does that help, Philip? With that? Yeah. Beautiful. So I'm curious, feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to use the chat. But what comes to mind when you're looking at what could be the benefits of having my client have a blueprint and having them to track their activity schedule? So what would be the ideal energy for a client to try and achieve? I don't give a number. That's why we have to do it a few weeks and be able to then analyze the data and really see, okay, Hélène, that day you used 63 points and you were a 5 out of 10. You hardly use any replenishing activities. You ended up with 63 points. So let's look at other days. And so it really is about having a couple weeks of data to support the person, and you coach the person to identifying what their numbers are. I've seen people use a ton of replenishing points and throughout the day, and they can be around 40, 50. I've seen people, their golden number is around 80. So there is a range. So it's hard to specify that because it really is so unique for everyone. For advantages, Magdalena, you said it's a great visualization tool for people or in autopilot or busy mode to wear awareness and promote better choices. I like that. It is awareness raising in a frenetic life. I haven't I like that word, Claire, frenetic. Yeah, I agree. It's great for clients ready to enter a cognitive path. Satu, you said your week becomes visual, where time goes and how to manage your energy. Lots of awareness. You're starting to see pattern over time after action. Someone said, great for clients. Sorry, I'm repeating. Seeing patterns overnight. Main advantage here is becoming aware of the lack of energy drivers. Yes. And so when I checked in with my clients that I've used this, a lot of what you said is coming up. And here's what I'm hearing over and over again. Claire, you said, so you can delegate, outsource what you don't like. Yes. So there's a ton of strategies that result once that awareness is there, then we can do something about it, right? So it's so beautiful. The first couple of sessions, they just feel more technical and it helps to dial the awareness. But once we got that awareness, now I can do something about it. Now we are ready to shift perception. Now we are ready to move into action. So it's almost those stages of change. I find it helps people to move through them quicker because of this tool, and we get more results. So this is what they say: approvability to prioritize and organize their activities. So there'll be more reflection. Stop. Can I carve in a 15-minute buffer in my day today so I can get a replenishing activity and I can attend my afternoon meetings and be more present? It's helped to enhance their clarity about what depletes or replenishes their energy. just like many of you shared. And some will realize that they have hardly any replenishing activities. And I'll show you an example. They'll say it's increased my frequency.
As well.
Say that again, Claire. Oh, you just cut off. I couldn't hear it. Do you want to try again, Claire? Sorry. Oh, Britta has a question she wanted to ask. I'm sorry, Britta. I'm looking at the other screen and I wasn't. You probably had your name, your hand up. Go ahead, Britta.
Sorry. I actually just wanted to add what is written here. So it's a good tool to see what are your energy drainers and what are your energy replenishers, but then also looking at where does my energy go and do I want it to go there or do I want it to go somewhere else? Yeah. So that's all.
Because yeah, and I think that's a fantastic point. And thank you, Claire, for catching your Britta's hand. Because this is where we as coaches, we are so strong in observations, and we're so strong at making to link to what's valuable, what's meaningful for them. Right. So a lot of the time, like you're looking at this information and you can make that observation. I'm noticing that day that you went and played squash with your friend, that looked like a good day. I'd like, tell me more. And they were like, and it could be in that moment, they were like, yeah, like I used to play squash once a week and now I hardly get there. I get there a couple times a year if can, but yeah, it absolutely replenishes my activity to hang out with my buddy and to do that activity. And oh yeah, you're right. I remember, Helen, you told me about to prevent burnout, that physical activity is the number one thing I can do, right? And so you can really get into, find a ton of coaching moments as you're reviewing this. Another one that I'll hear, and this is in my healthcare hat, is their ability to gradually increase their points over time. So that client that one of the first clients I used it heavily with, he had a concussion and artist and wanted to go back to work, but all of a sudden car accident and he just changes overnight. And so when we first met, his energy points, he could do, his total for him was about 20 when we first met. But as we incorporated strategies, as he gradually recovered and healed, that 20 became 40 6 months later. So for some people that have had a change and that they're dealing in a situation where there might be some recovery or there might be some decline, it helps them to gain awareness where they are right now. It doesn't mean you'll be there forever. Catherine, leaders often way I have no other choice. Yes, but actually even the CEO as a major company has the possibility to create and maintain replenishing moments each day to perform. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. And Mark, you say sometimes we need to help our clients give themselves permission that a replenishing activity is where and what they need to do to perform. That's beautifully said. Inviting you to copy and paste this. We'll have to save the chat, Claire. It's beautiful. Britta, you say, I love the empty cup metaphor in this context. You can pour from an empty cup. I love that. Yes, you can absolutely play with that so much in your session. Claire, you said it links to our next book for our book club, My Stroke of Insight. Such awareness of what tasks we find hard and we need compassion from. Oh, that's so great. I love that, Claire, that it has that link. And so in that healthcare context too, they'll share, I can better manage my symptoms, whether that's physical fatigue or cognitive fog. This clip here is from a client who actually was, even though she didn't have a diagnosis or an illness, this is actually coming from her. She is a leader in a director role. Her name is Ashley. You'll see her here. It's just a 30-second clip. And I had worked with Ashley. I think we had done about 7 sessions, just in a, not just, but in a leadership coaching context. She didn't know about this tool at all. I was noticing she had to move. She had a new position, so she climbed up the ladder and was supporting more people. And she was dealing with a toddler. And I made an observation. And I said, Ashley, I'm noticing that there's a shift in your energy, and I'm feeling, I can almost see the tension in your shoulders. And I said, what are your, and so we talked through that. And I said, you know, I do have a tool that we could use together if you're interested. And then I showed her the tool quickly. I just did a screenshot, showed her the workbook, walked her quickly. Big picture, took me 5 minutes. And I said, what are your thoughts? If we do this though, you know, the disclaimers here, it does take effort, and we probably will dedicate our next 3 sessions on this blueprint. But what are your thoughts? What's the outcome you would want from it if we do take these 3 sessions? So she absolutely wanted to do it. We ended up doing 4 sessions. The last one was more coaching session. So this is at the end of this is the 4th session, the last one on this tool.
Because it's just given me a lot more awareness in general of how I am allocating my energy, and also just being more cognizant of if I'm trying to prioritize different things in my day, like it's gonna be more on the replenishment and it's not gonna be more on the using energy end. So I feel like it's been helpful just to, like, you know, if ever in doubt, like just kind of thinking through about you know, that blueprint and understanding like what is bringing me energy and what is not.
And so it was so neat to reflect on our journey together. One thing she realized, she was one of those directors. I'm curious how many of you have clients like that. She would push through the day and back to back meetings. When I first met with her, and I'll share this because we can view her. Hold on, I think I have to. Here we go. I will cancel that screen and we'll try again. Wow. Pause. It doesn't want to leave that screen. Okay, I'll try something else. Here we go. So when we will go, so this is her blueprint. So when we first met, that was the only, that first session, that was the only replenishing activity she had, going to bed at night. And fortunately, she was sleeping well. After 4 sessions, she discovered those ones. And I would say about half of those was because of our coaching sessions. And I would spotlight it. I would say, Ashley, it sounds like this might be a replenishing activity. And so it was through the coaching that it helped her to become even more aware. She's like, oh my gosh, I think you're right. And so after a couple of sessions, in the last session, and this is all the 4 sessions with her actually are on that online module. And it's really neat to see how she showed up in our 4th session. She's like, oh, I added this very last one. She's like, oh, I added that. I noticed that was a replenishing activity. But it took 4 sessions before she could really spotlight for herself what those replenishing activities were. And what was neat with her is she was able to carve in some time when she was at work. So when we first session 1, she would go week after week after week, Monday to Friday, no break. Now she's incorporating a 15-minute buffer. She's not successful in doing it every day, but she'll try to do it. Her goal is 3 times a week during the work hours. When she can't, she will step outside and get a breath of fresh air but what she realized, she had no idea that it was such a strong impact for her to just step outside her environment, get some fresh air. And so she'll carve in 5 minutes for that. And so for me, if you look at her, she's quite young. She's got years ahead of her that she can work successfully as a leader. She's climbing very quickly. So imagine if we had, what comes to mind for me is, what if we hadn't stopped? What if I hadn't, as the coach, made that observation, stop and offered this tool for her? She would have kept going like the energy battery, the energy rabbit, and she would have crashed at some point. And so we don't have the research to showcase she would have burned out. We don't know, but we can predict or anticipate that it came in a moment where it allowed her to pause and reflect and make some sustained behavioral change. So when you check in with her at the end of our 3 months, some of these habits have been sustained, which is really cool. I think I missed a couple of questions I just want to get to. Well, if I really like what you said, what if doing the things we like also drains our battery? 100%. When you were looking at my schedule, I love my work more than anything. Like for me, I always say, work is not work. I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed to do what I do. However, you saw in my energy blueprint, when I do those projects, which I love 100%, it eats up 3 to 4 points. I love spending morning routine with my kids. It eats up my points. And so I love running. It eats up my points. So it's okay that what we enjoy eats up our points. The idea is to also find those replenishing activities that don't. So for me, it's that 15-minute bath at the end of the day can give me -4 points, super easy. And many of you have started to identify what it is for you. And so as coaches, I find we're so strong with our awareness, and we're so strong at incorporating those strategies. And now having this tool in our toolbox to support our clients to do this. So I like how you say that, Wapa. Thank you. Oh, Magdalena, that makes my day. This session is definitely replenishing my energy levels. Thank you. That's beautiful. And Elaine, I just want to read your comment as well. You found that it's interesting that replenishing activities are counted as minus figures and energy eaters are counted as plus figures. I would have marked them the other way around, like adding power to a battery. You could absolutely do that, Elaine, if that resonates more for you, 100%. I was following the Weight Watcher model. What I invite with all of my tools is for people to make it their own and make it work for them and for their clients. So if that resonates, definitely inviting you to do that. Wafa, it sounds like this includes a more directive approach. Yes, Wafa, I would say for the first couple sessions, it is more directive because you do have to give them those instructions on how it works. You do have in the workbook, it's built in, there's a coach approach built into it. And so the way I deliver it is, here's how it works. My invitation, typically clients are, should fill this out 3 or 4 days at a minimum. What are your thoughts? What are going to be the best way for you to log your activities? What method would work best for you? I have these 3 tools that you can use, but what would work best for you? And so definitely using that coach approach in those first sessions. But yes, I would say it's more directive. At the end, it very much turns into coaching. I'll show you another client that I used the tool with. We did 6 sessions, and I would say our last 3 sessions were very much coaching sessions focusing on that. Magdalena, you said great tool for reducing stress and burnout in healthcare. I love this, and it's so relevant in the global stress epidemic. I agree. And so let me show you, and we'll have time for questions after, more questions as well. But here's another client. So this is the other client. And all 6 sessions are in the online module as well. And so Cece, when we first met, these are the 2 replenishing activities she identified. At the end of our time, these were added. And with her, is very interesting because the block for her to improve her energy was really related to fear. And so she had been dealing, she's been dealing with lupus since the age of 12. And before first session, she had been, a big attack had happened and she had been off of work for over a year. And so this is where, when you're working with people that have these conditions, it really fluctuates. So Cece had to learn where she is right now. And for her, she's got 2 young kids. And the impact it's had for her is improving those relationships, having more quality activities that she's able to do. And a lot of it under that iceberg for her was the fear that was related to doing too much, spending too much energy. So for her, getting clear on that number was really helpful, and really carving in those replenishing activities was critical as well. And I just want to make sure we tackle all of our goals. And so one of our learning objectives was to apply these key concepts when we're using the tool. So these would be the key concepts to incorporate. So that first step is listing those activities. We customize that blueprint. We assign a depleting point or a replenishing point. And you could absolutely reverse that too, if that makes more sense for yourself or your client. And then it's identifying that just right zone over time of those total points that are needed to be used. And so on page 5 in our workbook, you have shared so much already in the chat about the application of this for our coaching session. My invitation, if you are like me and love to take notes, you can copy and paste those amazing stories and practical impact to coaching you've already indicated in the chat, and to put this on page 5. And curious if more are showing up for you at how this is applicable in coaching. And so for Magdalena, you've already showcased how this could be helpful in a healthcare context, and the needed work that you're doing. Thank you again. Anything else that comes up? We've already shared how it could support leaders, CEOs, that they can carve in, just like Ashley, there's a way to carve in those replenishing points. So feel free to add those comments for team coaching, team level energy. Yes, I've never done it for team coaching in this concept. That could be super fun. Could do a series of workshops with this. And be able to do that accountability piece. They could support each other. That'd be so fun. Philip, a great tool for creating balance at all levels of wellness. Elaine, would love to do this with teams. Yeah, if anyone does it with team, please let me know. That'd be fun. For groups of people across organizations, for families together. Yes, I love that. And so in your workbook, there's QR code. If you go to it, it brings you here. And I'm not sure if, for me, I do earn my credits. I look to earn my credits with International Coaching Federation. This is one of the tools I've created, and I have several more. And what I did is put them all together as a package. I would say the energy balance blueprint is the biggest one, the more time consuming, because I've added 7.5 hours of coaching demo. So you see CC and I for 6 sessions and Ashley and I for 4 sessions. So you get to see in leadership and health and wellness context. And then the rest, the 3 hours is to walk you through in detail to all the worksheets and the journey from beginning to end. And then there's these other ones. But if you wanted just the blueprint online module that is absolutely available to you. And here's what it looks.
Just checking, Helena. Is there any sound with this? There was a comment in the chat.
Yeah, I had to turn the volume down. It was just it was catching the background noise and it was disruptive. It was just meant to be a quiet video for me to talk over, but there was some audio issue when it was recorded. But it was just walking you through what that online module looks like, and you saw those 2 clients where there's a lot of rich coaching sessions embedded in there and an overview. So it just really gives you everything you need to be able to plan those up to 6 sessions with clients. Again, with Ashley, I used it for 4 sessions. I think we could have done it in 3 as well, but she really wanted that last check-in one. And then with CC, we did 6 sessions and we got to a place where she never thought she'd go back to work again. And now in our last conversation, it was really powerful because what came out is she's moving to that preparation and action stage, and looking, establishing some action plans to start work in the fall. So quite powerful and quite impactful. So we'd love if anyone has any questions. I'll stop sharing my screen and happy to answer any of your questions, and just wanted to give you this again in case you wanted to follow up afterwards. Sometimes it's questions that will surface following up. And Marek, you said very impressive and detailed course design. Thank you. Thank you for sharing the examples of your program. Thank you so much, Mark, for that beautiful comment. Really appreciate it. And Claire, you said, I think the example of 6 session also supports not just a transition, but maintenance. Absolutely. And it really is to sustain those behavioral change. I think with CC, we really got to go, lots of insight was happening in session 4 and 5. And in that 6th session, she says this herself. She's like, wow, I never thought I would get to this place. I didn't know this was what was going to come out of our time together today. So we were going, it was really coaching and less directive with CC, especially in session 5 and 6. So it goes directive to less directive over time. So I hope that's helpful. Oh, thank you, Claire. You can tell I really geek out with creating and designing content. I really, I quite enjoy it, and meeting people like you that are doing the amazing work that is needed out there. I so appreciate all that you're doing, and you're taking the time to deepen your learning and to acquire new tools that can make an impact. So really appreciate everything. Any questions that are surfacing or comments? And I have some for you. You don't. Because I'm curious what people are doing right now when they're working with a client and they're, noticing that energy is a barrier, or you've got a bit like me with Ashley, where you're worried that if they keep this pace that they're going to crash. Like, I'm curious what tools you're using right now, or what approach that you do with your clients.
I've gone more to the what ways can you reduce stress, for example, and a focus around that. But what I'm loving about this is that deeper awareness and the measuring in some way. It's like, oh gosh, reality check.
Yeah, it really is something that more for a deeper dive. And Britta said, I use mental fitness, positive intelligence. Yes, this will blends really well with that. Britta, using use of sense for replenishing. Magdalena, I find it helpful to explore what replenishes and drains the bucket. Yeah. And so sometimes we don't need to do a super deep dive. We can explore those key questions and coach that. I started to practice somatic exercise. Yes. And I'll incorporate that in some of our sessions. That's beautiful. And actually, I asked them to list their energy drainers and givers. Very simple list. Yeah. Beautiful. There was one that I had discovered, and I tried to play with it, but it didn't go as deep as I needed to, and it was the tablespoon concept. So, and was related, similar idea, like how many tablespoons can you have per day of energy? And so it's almost like that point system. But it didn't land as well for me, for my clients. So I find this one worked better. And so Elaine, you said you do similar to Britta. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your engagement throughout. And I want to wish you an amazing rest of your day. And thank you for having coffee with me. I'll have to finish it later. And please do reach out if you have any questions, comments. We'd love to hear from you, and wishing you a great end of your day. And thank you, Claire, for the invitation.
Thank you so much. That time has gone so quickly. I hope you can hear me clearly. Cheers. Great to have you at the community cafe. And I certainly will be going to those links to learn even more. Really appreciate your time. And thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.